Hi everyone. My name is Faye Tavengwa. I work for BHA for Equality. Today I'm doing a Q&A with Kurirai Mahamba, a sexless relationship coach. So how are you, Kurirai?
Good, thank you. Nice
Yeah,
to be
thank you.
here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming to Q&A. So the first question is, could you tell us what do you do? What exactly do you do? Explain.
Now, what we do is usually we just work with men to help them within the relationships, generally from having sexless relationship to have a successful sexual life within the relationships.
Yeah, okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's nice to know that there's something out there for men, because usually we get a lot of organizations which support women. So it's nice to hear for a change that there's something out there for men where men can go for support. So what inspired you to be a relationship coach and to do this men thing?
For me, it started when I was younger. I remember going out clubbing, and I think I was always nervous to talk to ladies. So I just didn't know what to do. Nobody teaches you how to talk to ladies. So in many places, I didn't lack confidence. Around friend groups, I didn't lack confidence. But I always thought, how is it that people can speak to complete strangers and then become going to get into a relationship with a complete stranger and then me? So I couldn't do that. And I thought I need to learn how to do that. So I started learning how to speak to people from the streets and trying to talk to different people, and I started growing my confidence. So as I started growing my confidence, I just thought it was normal for every guy to know how to do it. Then I realized that not everyone was doing it. So me and my friends, we used to go and approach. We used to live in London at the time, so we'd approach anywhere between 100 to 100 people per day, just talking, having conversations. And the most difficult thing is to get a complete stranger to like you. And the second part of the most difficult thing is to ask them for a date. So when we now knew how to do that, we thought it was normal for every guy. Just thought maybe we didn't know. So now we've learned it. We thought everyone knew how to do it. We discovered that not everyone knew how to approach a woman and then talk to her, and then not just talk to her, but just get her to like you as well. So it was a complete skill. So we started coaching people how to get dates or get confidence to get dates.
Mhm.
So we did that quite a long time. And then after a period of time, got married, and then I retired from coaching coaching people. And then when I stopped coaching people on that front, got married, and then within the marriage, you always think that you're supposed to do certain things. So there were certain things that I thought what makes a good husband. So I was trying to be attentive. I was trying to be romantic, or what I thought was romantic. Try certain things, but within a marriage, you get challenges. So we started seeing that it was not. We're getting a lot more challenges within the marriage. So the times that you're happy were less than the times when you're um, struggling. So I started trying to think what is going on, and for some time I just thought marriage was one way. So I started to continue doing the things that I thought were the good things. But those periods just continued getting longer and longer. We're both unhappy, and started thinking about why is it that we're unhappy? And then I started realizing that there's some things that I was doing before we got married that made it happy. And then those things have stopped them. Now that because in fact the biggest part of it was that I realized that my mindset was to try and get us together and become one person, become closer. And that was what's that everybody says, that you have to be one person, you have to get closer, you have to be 50-50 and so on. Whereas I then realized that the reason why she was attracted to me before we got married was that because I was 100% myself. So I had to become a little bit more selfish in sense that I needed to focus on myself growing. The better I grow and focus on myself, the better that I can contribute to the relationship and the better the relationship was. So when I started realizing that that actually works, I realized that there's also other men that are suffering within a relationship where they're unhappy. And then that's what started us on this path.
Wow, this is amazing. Wow, you said some very great point that who teaches people what to do? Who teaches young men what to do? Because it plays a great role. I always see that sometimes women laughing that, oh, the asking lines, how do you ask a woman out for a date? So when women laugh at you, then you lose that confidence and say, wow, this guy, the lines are so who teaches men how to do that? So I think I like that you found that gap and you and your friend did some research talking to young men on how to approach women. So it's really amazing. And who teaches someone how to be a good husband? Do we follow what our parents did? What if our parents were not the best? Where are we going to learn this? So I think you really found that missing gap, and I admire what you do, Kuri. It's really, really amazing. And some of the things I'm sure you've said on the next question, what causes relationships to become sexless? So I think you've covered that. People change after a while, especially if you get used to each other. You start to relax in a marriage, or when you're living together with your partner, or you get used to each other and you've been dating for a while. You start getting relaxed and probably you stop doing what you used to do in the beginning that attracted the other person. So if you can go further with that, what causes relationships to then become sexless?
A large chunk of it is to do, we call it, because some of them, so we've got a thing we call removing the masks. Mm-hmm. So within a relationship, when you start the relationship, you have a series of masks that you have. What you always put your best foot forward within a relationship. So initially, if you think about it, a man, they'll try and show that woman that they've got ambition. So you've got that mask of ambition. I'm ambitious. This is what I want to achieve. And the woman would like that because she eventually wants security within that relationship. So she wants to date a guy who you might not have everything together, but he's got something about him. The guy will say, I'm going to university, I'm doing this course. Eventually I want to do this. And then the girl will say, oh, that's somebody I could share my life with because they got ambition. And then the other one would be, they would be quite romantic. So they'll put that mask on as well, where they open the door and all these other things. Mm-hmm. So you put your best foot forward, and we call masks. And you put on these different masks that will sort of hide away your true self. And sometimes your true self, when I say your true self, is that you have fears, you have traumas. Mm-hmm. So in those traumas are within your close circle, which is your family. Mm-hmm. You get trauma from, and then you also get trauma from outside your internal circle. So when you went to school, my daughter yesterday to the incident at school, it could have been a traumatic issue, but it's one of the things that where she now feels self-conscious about herself. And so you get these different events within your life that cause trauma, that cause fear. So a large chunk of them would be a fear of abandonment, being ignored. And again, you could also what they call an attachment style. So just briefly explain that one is that whenever as children, we are so dependent. We're the only species that are dependent on our parents from the day we're born till 20 or 25, depending on when the child comes. So in all the time, we've got so much time to traumatize our children, which is quite, and that trauma, whether it's the fact that you ignore them, and sometimes it's not even on purpose. So sometimes imagine if you're a parent and you're suffering depression, your parent style can be quite harmful to that child, or you could be going through your own situation where you are feeling abandoned, and then but there's certain ways that we all get traumatized, and as we get traumatized, we carry those wounds of, and usually that trauma happens when you're still quite young, could be as early as 3 years old. You carry those wounds into a relationship. Now, I think for most people that are married right now, when they're listening to this, they will find out that whenever you get into a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
all those trauma wounds come up. So whether it's
To be
fear of
triggered.
exactly, you get triggered, they say something, it triggers you, and you don't even know why. That somebody said the same thing to you, but because they said it, it becomes quite a triggering event. Now, most people don't really know how to behave when that happens. There's two behaviors that we've identified. We call them neutral behaviors and combative behaviors. So, neutral behavior is that when somebody triggers me, I can hide by being sarcastic. I can hide by being, sort of not saying what's triggering me and what's going on in terms of my needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the combative behaviors that I'll become quite angry, I'll become quite dismissive. And so that triggers them as well. And then we never resolve the thing. So when you think of the behaviors and the trauma, because when you're within the relationship, you have to be unmasking them. We continue masking, that trauma becomes, starts triggering us. It starts creating this gap between the partner and so on. So a lot of it is emotional, because for the relationship to actually grow, you have allowing those masks to come off so you can reveal yourself. So I'll give an example. My mom and dad divorced. That would have had a negative impact on my life. I didn't realize that it had a negative impact on my life until I got married.
Yes.
So it changes how you view a marriage. So when it comes to you have these abandonment issues that might appear within the relationship, and they will appear in different ways, and you continue appearing. So most people, they don't recognize that I'm putting out these behaviors based off of the trauma that I've experienced.
Yes.
And then when they come through, they start affecting the relationship. So in terms of the sex side of things, you just create this gap where the actual sex itself becomes a transactional thing, because there's no real connection. The real connection would be, I remove these masks, and then you get to see the true self that the other person is, which is the fearful, the one that's got low self-esteem, the one that's got lack of confidence. You can have confidence and self-esteem in other areas and be okay, but within the relationship, there's certain aspects that will show that you've got lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, and then you need to be vulnerable enough to share that so that your partner can help you get stronger with it.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm learning a lot. Wow. And we don't really think about it. We just feel like I'm not feeling it, and we just don't realize that all these things that we've been through in our lives is two people coming in together with all these issues. Yeah, and wow. I'm learning a lot today. So do you think also communication plays a big role in a relationship between two people, as well as maintaining the bond? Because one, you could have all these issues, but are you able to talk about it? So do you think communication could be the one to solve this? Because when you open up to the other person how you're feeling or what you've been through, do you think it helps?
It does help. I think communication, most people, they say that's one of the, if you ask anybody what's the success to, everybody knows how to answer it. Everybody answers. Communication is the key to a successful relationship. Yes. The one thing that people don't realize is that what kind of communication, because if in your relationship, if your partner doesn't speak to you, it is communication. They've told, I don't want to talk to you. So your communication isn't only the verbal, it's in what we call the non-verbal. Yes, treatment is communication. So it depends on what type of communication. The most important communication, that can change for everybody's life today, is that the most important communication within a relationship is communication with yourself. So how do you talk to yourself about yourself? If you talk to yourself in a very negative way, it means when you get into the relationship, you now become somebody who wants to take from the relationship. That's the reason why I said the one thing I did learn was that I had to be a bit more selfish. So focused on building myself and getting better with where I could see there was trauma. So I just started working on myself. So the more self, the more, instead of me trying to take from the relationship, or you're not spending time with me, you're not showing me love, you're not showing me this, I don't feel connected to you, I'm trying to take to the relationship. It changed my mindset to how can I make it impactful? How can I make it more connection? How can I do, because my mind just shifted. I wasn't trying to take, I was trying out to contribute to the relationship, because I was me being 100%. And when she focuses on her being 100%, we're both contributing to the relationship. We're not trying to take.
Wow. Okay, this is amazing. This is also reminding me of self-love, that first you have to love yourself, and be connected to yourself before you even expect the love from someone else or expect something from someone else. You have to first fix yourself. So it's very, very important before you even get deeper with someone to first be connecting with yourself. So that's a very, very good point there.
That's true. And makes it to become more vulnerable. So especially when taking away the masks, if you self, it makes it really start realizing, okay, this is where I've got abandonment issues, for example. That's when you now communicate it, because you're coming from a place of contribution. You can really become vulnerable because you're working on yourself. So it's not, oh, I've got this problem, I'm a victim, and then you say, oh, I'm a victim, and then you start trying to take the room. The more I build myself, the more
version of myself I become.
That's right. And then I can contribute. And it's absolutely right about the fact that it's like in a plane, they say, if the gas mask comes, even before you save your child, put yours first.
For yours first, yes,
Child first, you can pass out, and then both of you die. So you have to look out for yourself. That self-love is the most important communication, because you want to change that dialogue inside your head that tells you that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough.
Negative mind.
That's right, yeah. And these are words that you probably heard, some parents they call their children stupid, or not even just parents.
When you're growing up, you used to hear in Africa parents just shouting anyhow, not knowing that those things they stick in their head. You say it's useless, oh, stupid child, stupid, and then it sits on you that I'm stupid, I'm not good enough. Or sometimes you'll be called ugly. This one's got a big head, is ugly. So all these things that stick on our heads.
And then when you're in a relationship, your partner will say something very innocent, and then you think that thing just floods back. And this is how the barrier starts just growing. And over time, because you don't know how to communicate that I'm not stupid, I don't have a big head, you don't know how to communicate it. It creates a barrier to...
Wow. So now I'm going to take it further, in relation to our organization. As you know, that we offer HIV tests and offer sexual health advice to people in the community, especially the BEM communities. So what is your view about the stigma attached to sex, the sexual health in general and HIV, especially in BEM communities? What would be your opinion about that?
I think there's not enough education when it comes to people. There's not enough education in sex in general. I think most people feel embarrassed. A large chunk of it is, and it sounds like I'm blaming everything on parents, but it's very important. Parents should have conversation with their children about it. Because if you don't, if you don't teach your children about it, then somebody else is going to teach them.
Yes.
I was lucky. My mom, she was just a little bit different. So I remember probably, 14, 15. And I was in school, and it was just popular to have condoms.
Okay.
So, you have condoms. Now, we're not doing anything with the condoms, but we have condoms in the pocket. So it was cool to have condoms. And then I had a blazer, and so in my blazer, my button was not I didn't have a button, so she took the blazer to start sewing the blazer. Looked in my pockets and found these condoms, but these condoms were expired.
Okay.
Because I don't know what you're doing, but you shouldn't be using these condoms. So she didn't say, I don't want to hear that you're having sex. I don't want to hear that you got a girlfriend. She didn't do that. She just said, it's part of nature, it's part of life. You can do it, but you shouldn't use these condoms because they're expired.
Wow.
And it's so she didn't say, so there wasn't that shame associated with sex.
I know what you mean. Really making it like it's taboo. It's not something that you should be doing.
That's right. So a few days later, I was going to school. I checked my pocket, and there were some condoms in there that were a date.
Wow!
So
how amazing is that?
Did you get the package? And I was like, yes, I got the package.
Wow!
And I was embarrassed, but that was the lesson that taught me.
Oh, this is amazing. You know, like if all parents could be free like that and do that to normalize it, not make children feel or young people feel as if it's something wrong. So because when they feel like it's something wrong, that's when they don't open up to us as parents, you know, tell us if they've got any questions. I think we should be open enough for our kids to talk to us about any question they have about sex. Like you said, that we are the best teachers of our children before they even get taught out there. It's better we teach them ourselves at home first, you know. So you because a good point.
No, it's perfectly. I think that's the most important part, and that's where we fail as a society. That if I don't teach my child, it means the 13-year-old boy who's not informed is going to teach my child.
Exactly. Talk about it. Yes.
They'll talk about it and they think, oh, that guy knows, and then they teach them completely the wrong thing. So
this one, because when they're like that, it's very hard when they get to adulthood. They're supposed to get married, and sex and sexual health was always taboo at home. And then they get married, get into marriage. They don't know how to negotiate, or in relationship, they don't know how to negotiate safe sex. And we've got this issue about HIV. It's avoided as well because it's about testing and no one wants to know the status. So what do you say about that in terms of couples, HIV, how can we encourage couples to talk about it and get tested?
To get tested, I think it's from if you're in a relationship, you both of you know that you okay. I'll put it this way. So I think in our relationship, most guys would be afraid to suggest testing because if I said, can we go testing? She would say, why do you want us to go testing? Have you been faithful? Have you been unfaithful? So it opens a new kind of worms. And then if she suggested it, then I'll be asking, well, why is it that? Because have you been
doing something?
Yeah. Most couples would never think about testing or even talk about testing. I think it just
avoiding the blame game, I guess, like you're saying that no one wants to get blamed. The one who suggests will now be blamed. Why are you suggesting that? Because we've done something. So is it better than for someone to just test on their own and then maybe we show each other results when we're dating? Can that work? Because some people will say, oh, what if it's fake results? Why can I believe your results? So some people have been testing together, or if you do it separate as well, there's an issue of saying, what if it's not genuine? Maybe they are fake results. So it's really...
no, sorry, so I probably answered it wrong because in marriage setting or in a relationship
in dating setting as well, because we want to see like if you're dating someone before, because you normally couple when they meet, normally first date they use condoms and they start to get comfortable, probably stop using condoms. Before we stop using condoms, so how do we negotiate safe sex? How do we talk about testing without bringing in the blame game?
No. So if it's, I think that's now to do with what we're talking about. So trauma, a little bit of shame associated to sex. When I say trauma, before, it depends on your relationship history. So again, I think when people view a relationship, I think there's a few times when I was in a relationship when things got a little bit serious, we would go to the clinic, and it was just a conversation that we had, which was like, when we've been using condoms, if you're in birth control, maybe we don't have to use condoms, but before we do, let's go and get checked. It doesn't change the status of the relationship, and we'll deal with that, because it's got implications, doesn't it?
Exactly. And this STI is going on, STI, sexual transmitted infections as well. So people need to get protected. So it's important, as a couple, to negotiate safe sex, talk about it, and not avoid the subject. So my next question is, what advice can you give to couples struggling with intimacy? How can they restore the connection? I'm sure you talked about it, but I just want you to go a bit further about how can they then restore the connection. They've managed to see where the issue is coming from, but how do you then restore the connection as a couple?
I think the best way to start restoring intimacy generally is working together and really start asking questions. I think most people, they look at how they feel. Generally is that, oh, I'm feeling a bit lonely, I'm feeling a bit sad, I'm feeling stressed, anxiety. And then they pass it over to their partner and say, so they give partner, this is how I'm feeling. Can you deal with it for me? And what that does is that, for example, if it's me and my partner, I'm speaking to my partner and like saying I've got anxiety and so on. If I share my problems and really not try and come up with solutions, it just creates even more of a problem within that relationship. Whereas most people don't really ask themselves the questions that, why do I feel this way? Why is it that I can't reconcile feeling lonely? Why? Because some people, when you're lacking intimacy, it creates this loneliness within the relationship. So you are in a relationship, you tell each other that you love each other, you tell each other that you care about each other, but yet you still feel alone. So you start asking, why do I feel alone? What and is not being met by my partner that's causing me to feel alone? And usually sometimes instead of us trying to share what's going on with us, sometimes we blame, sometimes also shame the other person. So, oh, you did this, so because you did this, it's making me feel like this. Whereas, again, it could be innocent. So within studying it, I think they say, there's this quote, they say, questions breed revelation. So if I didn't ask the question, why is that I'm feeling this way? By me asking it, I can start looking for solutions for myself to revelation. Okay, you're feeling like this because when you were dating somebody left you and you didn't like it, and it's still affecting me. And then I'll start trying to work on that. Whereas most people, they don't do that internal work. They feel sad, they feel lonely, and then they shift all of that onto their partner and say, I'm feeling like this because of you. But sometimes they've got nothing to do. They've not even done anything. You're just being triggered because of your past trauma. So asking questions, sitting down, having a conversation. The worst thing that most people do, and is that within intimacy or within a relationship, people do things where they try and secure the relationship. So if you start dating, for example, you start feeling this, it's like you're really high and everything's amazing, all the feelings are really good, dropping a little bit. And then you think, for us to become amazing again, let's commit the relationship. So generally women start this conversation. It's that little dip, they say, where are we going with this? So she thinks, if I can ask for commitment, for him to say boyfriend, girlfriend, or whichever the relationship dynamic is, they say, in order for us to to go back to that height again, let's commit to relationship. So let's become partners.
More serious.
So you become partners, you go in a little bit of a high, and then it starts dropping again. Oh, maybe we should move in together. And then you go up a little bit again. And then maybe we should get married. Maybe we should have children. So you got these things that you're doing.
It's like a graph goes up and down, like a graph.
Right. That's right. And then now in a relationship, and whether it's marriage or partnership, and you're living together, that stuff will continue going down. And then some people will actually start doing things like date nights. So, for example, date nights are good, but they're only good if your relationship is good. If your relationship is
in a good place,
and then you decide, I'm going to go for a date night, it will go back up, but will eventually go back down again, because it's the environment that you create within your house that keeps everything up. And one of those things that up is, again, asking those questions, getting those revelations. So, for example, having those difficult conversations where you say, I'm feeling really lonely right now, very vulnerable. She realizes it. And the fact that I'm not even blaming her, saying, I've got no idea where this is coming from. I'm feeling lonely right now. It's not you. You haven't done anything. Or you might have said something, but I think it's just a little bit triggering. And by me being open, so I'll just give you this example in my relationship. We enjoy our company at our home. So we joke, we play around, we play jokes, we prank each other. It's our game, we enjoy. And because we are at a high point, things like date night become just a bonus to what's already going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Not this thing of the relationship. It's not something to try and hold the relationship and try and take it back up to the next.
Oh, yeah, just aggressively. Okay.
Right. Most times people deal with the symptom, but never go to the root cause of the problem. So the thing causing the relationship to go down, the root cause is somewhere within trauma, within you being triggered, within you not being vulnerable, with you not, both of you within the relationship. Whereas we now use these other things like committing, buying a house, doing all these things we think that by committing the relationship even more, we are going to make the relationship. From a book called Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. So very, very powerful book. Love that book.
Okay, that's nice. That's interesting. Oh, thank you so much, Kuri, for this. I've learned a lot, and I hope the viewers will enjoy listening to this Q&A. It's been amazing. And how can people contact you, and which types of courses do you offer? And so I want you to let people know how they can find you and what you got to offer, your courses, relationship coaches.
Yes, we have a podcast. So a podcast is called Thriving Tribesmen. Tribesmen, because I think men need to adopt the mentality of a tribesman. So if you think of a tribesman, is a guy who's going to have his community, his village, he's in charge of going to hunt, which would be, going to get the money and so on, but also be a good, effective leader, be able to communicate with people within his household, my wife, my child, working unity together to build this community that we have, which is our house. So that's pretty much the podcast teaches people on that, and really teaches men to be a little bit more in touch with their masculine side as well. I know most people now these days, when you talk about masculinity, it's toxic. You can't be masculine, but it's a very important part on the relationship itself. I think we spoke about this briefly. Do we still have time to talk?
Yeah, we just left with the 2 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay, so relationships are formed based on the things that we watch. So the main contributor to issues within relationships today. Friends is one of the biggest one, where they really were removing masculinity from men and showed men in a certain light. So most men are now behaving like guys from Friends, which is very different. Being in a relationship, there's a requirement of a level of masculinity, a level of leadership within a relationship. It doesn't mean that the woman is submissive and lack of her input. She will have input. You can lead together. It's like a band. You have
balance.
the lead, but then you also need somebody who's going to be playing instruments, and that will change within the relationship depending on what we do. So there's some parts of the relationship I'm a leader, but when it comes to children and with the children, school and dealing with what they do at school, my wife, she's much better than I am. So I'm just following. So there's always different parts where she leads, there's parts that I lead, but overall, some decisions that I will make, and that's it. And it's not because she's not capable. She's quite capable, but we
creating a balance. Things work.
If that balance, the relationship work. That's one important factor with it as well. I think there's something else I want to talk. Sex in the City as well has changed. So Sex in the City, I changed women, how they view relationships and how they view men. Because before, men and women were looked at each other with value, whereas now with Sex in the City, women started viewing men as replaceable. So you started seeing this movement where women will say, "Oh, if I'm not happy, I'll go to the next guy," and then
Wow. Oh, thank you so much. It's been very interesting, Kuri. Thank you so much. So if you want to find Kuri on Instagram, it's called Thriving Tribesmen. And then also on Spotify, you can find these podcasts with the same title, Thriving Tribesmen. Yeah, so go and hear what he says. Really interesting. You learn a lot. So Kuri, thank you so much for this interview. It's amazing.
Currently writing a book. Called Instantly. So